Yes, mention it. We're on YouTube now and Facebook. So let me go to Facebook, YouTube first, very start, so that I can mention it.
No, just because I did fine.
Okay, okay. All right, we're on YouTube.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you. You're welcome to this webinar put together by Rook and Company, a full-service law firm located in Ikoyi, Lagos, Nigeria. Quickly, I must remind that apart from the Zoom platform, we are also live on Facebook as well as YouTube. Do good to join those other platforms as well as share the links, especially if you have issues connecting with us on Zoom. We consider it important to welcome our distinguished expert who will be dissecting our theme for today: startups, corporate governance, and fundraising in the tech space, pathways for emerging businesses. We also welcome you, our esteemed audience. My name is Simile Ojo, and I am also an associate in Rook and Company. I'll be steering the wheels of today's event, and I'll be pointing you to the right directions. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you for the first item on the agenda. I present to you for the welcome address, the managing partner, Rook and Company, Miss Ololade Idowu Adegoke, MP Ma.
Thank you. Distinguished speakers and attendees, it is a great privilege and honor to welcome you all to this webinar theme: startups, corporate governance, and fundraising in the tech space, pathways for emerging businesses. We would like to thank you for taking time out from your busy schedules to be part of this knowledge-packed lecture and making this event a reality. I say indeed, you are the real MVP. We appreciate you all. The very essence of this lecture is to help startup businesses, particularly those in the technology industry, navigate their path in the corporate and finance sphere for a sustainable growth and efficient management. Today, Rook & Co has brought together some of the best minds cutting across various sectors of the business world, ranging from legal regulator and governance, financing, business advisory, and startups, to share from their wealth of experience, either as a regulator or facilitator of ideas, consultant, or even on the receiving end of the challenges faced in attempting to build a global brand. Experience shared by others assure better alternatives to making multiple errors before getting it right. This webinar offers our dear audience the rare opportunity of gaining firm directions to aid business decisions and enable growth with minimal zero errors. Rook & Co, having been in the business of providing top-notch and head-cutting legal advisory on businesses over the years, as well as managing dispute through the diverse resolution mechanisms for a wide clientele, both indigenous and foreign-based, we find it of necessity to offer this focused knowledge-sharing approach to provide foundational insight towards matters such as corporate governance and
at the Lagos Regional Center for International Commercial Arbitration, Lagos, Nigeria, Nigerian Communications Commission, Abuja, Nigeria, and a member governing board, JINADA International Commercial Arbitration and Mediation Center, Abuja, Nigeria. Professor Paul Idonije is a senior advocate of Nigeria, a notary public of Nigeria, and an author of repute. He has published extensively in local and international journals. He has lectured in various reputable institutions, including but not limited to the Nigerian Law School. He is listed as an arbitrator in the arbitration review tool of the Global Arbitration Review. He has handled several commercial arbitration and investment treaty arbitration as a counsel or arbitrator. He has done a lot of work in the oil and gas sector, construction, maritime, mines and minerals, real estate, hospitality, ports, amongst others. Ladies and gentlemen, for Professor Paul Idonije, SAN, will be speaking within the next 15 minutes to the topic, technology startups, governance, and conflict efficiency of ADR. Prof, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, the moderator. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching from. I must thank the organizers for inviting me, but for my topic, I'd like to start with this slide. It's taken from The Economist of 1999, and it goes thus. In 5 years' time, says Andrew Groove, the chairman of Intel, all companies will be internet companies, or they won't be companies at all. And you will be told that the internet is the most transforming invention in human history. It has the capacity to change everything. The way we work, even before COVID-19, the way we work started changing. And so today, you can work remotely, you can work from anywhere. Then the way we learn and play, the way we learn online, those days we had correspondence colleges, but today we can take our tuition online. And maybe the way we sleep, there are watches that can tell you how consistent your sleep was and for how long, or how we have sex. I don't know anything about that. What is more, it is doing so at far greater speed than the other great disruptive technologies of the 20th century, such as electricity, the telephone, and the car. Now, I will come back to this slide very shortly, but what we are trying to show here is to say basically that originally disputes were settled in a fixed place called a court. Now, with alternative dispute resolution, ADR, we have moved disputes away from a fixed place called a court to anywhere. So we can sit in our offices and resolve disputes. We can sit in our hotel rooms. In fact, some of my friends accuse me of even sitting at under a tree to resolve disputes. That's what ADR has done. Now, with online dispute resolution, we have moved away now from anywhere to outer space. I'm saying in this slide that thank God, Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson have gone to space, and Richard Branson has got license to do commercial flights. So very soon, we'll go to outer space to resolve disputes. But let me now come back home to my main presentation. This is the outline. I know I do not have the time, so I'll just go on with my presentation. Now, I've already thanked the organizers, especially my elder brother, friend and colleague, Professor Larry Pagbo SAN, former VC of LASU and founder of this leading law firm. But I must say something briefly about myself. Incredibly, I was born into an analog age. Those of us refer to as BBC. BBC simply means born before computers. But have migrated from manual type. I have been typing since 1966. I don't know if many of you are old enough to know those manual typewriters. You type ASDF bar, column LKG bar, and you return the carriage. I started typing with that in 1966. So I've been typing since 1966. But I have migrated from those manual typewriters through electronic typewriters to not just computers today, but using devices like. Sorry?
Prof, if you want to check your slide, it's not live.
Sorry, it's not showing.
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
Wow.
You may have to share again.
Okay, let me stop and share again.
Thank you, Prof. Sorry for the interruption, bro.
Okay. Are you okay now?
Not yet, bro.
Wow. Are we okay now?
Not yet, Prof. But Prof, proceed. We will then share from our end. We'll share.
Just a minute. Let me just try one more time. One more time. Let me
right,
try one more time. Yeah. Are we okay now?
Not yet, Prof. Prof, proceed. We are going to share the slide now, so we'll follow through.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's not to bother, Prof. Not to bother at all, Prof. You can proceed. We will share on our end, and it's going to come up now.
Okay, you share from your end. Well, I don't like anybody sharing my slides for me. You saw Harbo still right?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof. You are a host.
Are you sharing now?
Yes, Prof. Yes, Prof.
I can't see it. Can you move to introduction?
Yes, Prof. Right now it's going to come up and then we'll be on the same page.
Okay. We tested it earlier, it was working. I don't know what has happened now.
Prof is sharing now.
Okay. Move to introduction. I'm not saying it. Wow. Hello? Hello?
Yes, Prof.
I'm not saying
we'll be on introduction now.
I'm not saying it from here. Wow.
Prof, it's off already.
Okay, move on now. Okay, move on. Okay, good.
All right, Prof.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know what went wrong. I don't like anybody controlling my slides, but I will manage. So, like I was saying, I was born into an analog age, but I have migrated, and all my devices are synced. All my devices I have are in Microsoft OneDrive and Google Drive. Now, I also use Microsoft 365. I was a secretary before, and my boss used to dictate to me in shorthand. I type it out. We had a device called a dictating machine that my boss used to dictate and send me the mini audio device that I subscribed. I had a subscribing machine. But today, with Microsoft 365, I just speak to my system. It does not only record, but it types. And for me, that is fantastic. Next slide, please. So I see myself as a beneficiary. Next slide, please. Who is controlling the slide? I see myself as a beneficiary of technology as all my files are in the cloud. Now, what is a startup? A startup is an emerging business in the form of a company, a partnership, or a sole proprietorship designed to search for a repeatable and scalable business model. It must be innovative, driven by technology. It's sometimes referred to as the .com companies, but they are generally medium, small, and micro, small, and medium enterprises that are controlled by SMETA in this country, and what CAMA refers to as small companies. Now, why do we worry about startups, including micro, small, medium enterprises? Now, I'll talk about the activities of SMETA later, but you see, you find that one of the mandates of SMETA is to build capacity for startups, assist them in getting funding, facilitate them, and coordinate MSMEs in the country. And between 2013 and 2017, micro, small, and medium enterprises grew by 12%. They account for over 59 million jobs, representing 8.6% of national workforce. This was a study carried out by Nigeria Bureau of Statistics and SMETA in 2017. Their major challenge, a guru is here, Mr. Oduroye, who will talk about their major challenge, the issue of funding. But they're also prone to being insolvent. So that's why we have to be very careful in their setup. Now, also consider ease of doing business. Ease of doing business. One of the regulators, one of the indicators that the World Bank uses is how to start a business. So for me, this event will assist young entrepreneurs in how to start a business. Now, many of the most successful companies today, like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, they started as startups, and today they are publicly quoted. Now, you can't be doing business online and the accompanying paperwork is hard copies. So as far back as 1996, the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law on CITRAL adopted a model law on e-commerce. In 2001, it also adopted a model law on e-signature. And what is the purpose of all these laws? Is to ensure that we will give equal treatment to paper-based and electronic information. There shouldn't be discrimination between electronic and paper-based, and there's a need to maintain neutrality. So in moving to e-commerce or e-signature, we're looking at their functional equivalent to facilitate the use of electronic signature. So today, talk about e-government, remote and virtual hearing. Remote and virtual hearing did not start with COVID-19. Those of us in arbitration will be conducting arbitration virtually for many years. Talk about e-court, talk about e-filing, talk about e-banking, talk about e-library. EFCC has started e-GoI. The medical profession, they have telemetry. National Assembly, e-transmission. Now, unfortunately, despite the fact that the model law was adopted in 1996, in Nigeria today, we still do not have our act together. There is a draft electronic transaction bill that has been in National Assembly since 2015 and is still there. There's also a UN convention on the use of electronic communications in international contracts. Now, all they are trying to do here is to ensure that you can enter into a contract electronically. Prior to this, we had the Convention on International Sale of Goods, 1990. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not a party to any of these two conventions. So, with the increase in online cross-border transactions, we have moved away, like I said earlier, we have moved away from ADR to ODR. And for those, let me say this quickly. My paper touches many areas that I can only measure them in past 50, so you can Google and do a search on them. There's a document called Constitutional Technical Notes on ADR. So if you are keen on knowing how the ADR works, you can go online and get that. But the ODR mechanism is ideal for low-value cross-border e-commerce transactions. I'm saying here, maybe the Blue Origin with New Shepard will provide a venue space and Virgin Galactic, the commercial flight, to conduct ODR in space. Now, for a startup, it's important that you consider the governance structure. It's very, very important. Are you going to adopt a sole proprietorship, a partnership, or a company? You should also consider the legal and regulatory framework. Now, once you are involved in a commercial transaction, disputes will arise. Disputes will arise. We call them commercial disputes. If you look at the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, Section 57 defines commercial. It says the word commercial should be given a very broad interpretation so that it covers all legal relationships of a contract of a commercial nature, whether contractual or not. So this word commercial is used in a very technical sense here. It covers all legal relationships of a commercial nature, whether contractual or not. So it covers both contractual and tortious liability. And in the case of startups, intellectual property issues will arise. We're talking about patent, copyright, trademarks, they are likely to arise. And because technology is transnational and cross-border, the type of dispute that will arise will border on choice of law. So if a Nigerian and a Ghanaian are into a business transaction, which law applies? Nigerian law, Ghanaian law, and which court will have jurisdiction? Ghanaian court or Nigerian court? So we must, in our contract, in drafting our contract, choose the appropriate forum. In choosing the appropriate forum, you will remind of the issue of seat of arbitration. We all remember the P&ID case. What messed up that case is the issue of seat of arbitration. Then, how do you enforce an arbitral award? Assuming you choose arbitration, then the admissibility of evidence. Before now, there was argument as to whether electronic evidence is admissible. There's some noise at the background, please. Yeah, since 2011, our Evidence Act was passed to show that we can now admit electronic evidence. So for an investor, you should bear in mind that disputes can be settled under the dispute resolution clause in a contract. There is a statute, the NIPC Act, I'll talk about that later, and also Nigeria has entered into 29 bilateral investment treaties, out of which 15 are in force. So if you are dealing with an investor, check whether that investor's country is a country where we have entered into a bilateral investment treaty. So in this possession, yeah.
You have just about 5 more minutes, bro.
No, I cannot have. You cannot use the time we spent in sorting out this process as time.
No problem. We added the time after the glitch. We added the time that was spent during that glitch, right?
No, I could not control my software because I didn't know how long. No, I can't be doing introduction and I have just 5 minutes.
All right.
Right? Okay. Let me let me move faster. Now, okay. Here in this slide, I'm just trying to say, what are startups? They are new businesses that they are just starting up. They are new and they are generally financed by founders. Like I said, Mr. Ojuroye will talk about the funding, whether it's a venture capitalist, grants, crowdfunding, or they get loans. Now, like I said earlier, they must consider the nature of their funding. I'll go past the purpose of technology of a technology startup because time is on my side. I'll go to the next slide. Let's talk about the governance structure. Like I said earlier, there are 3 main options open to such investor. It could be a sole proprietor. There are challenges with that. It can be a partnership. There are also issues with that. It can also be a company. There are also issues with that I cannot discuss now. But I want to draw attention to the fact that CAMA 2020 has introduced some innovations that are good for new companies. First, the issue of one person being a sole shareholder, a sole director. So you can now form a company. You don't need to be 2 or 3 to form a company. Then CAMA has changed. Anyway, on that slide, I'm showing the innovation introduced by CAMA. I cannot spend so much time on that. Then here, I'm saying that as a small business, you must know the provision of the SMEDAM Act. You must know the provisions in the NIPC Act, especially sections 4, 22, and 26 of the NIPC Act. Then, because you are into inventive activity, if you produce an inventor, section 1 of the Patent Trade and Design Act enables you to register it as your patent. Then, the Finance Act gives some incentives to MSMEs. In terms of conflict, Conflict can arise between the parties. you move so fast. Can you go back a little bit? Let me talk about conflict a little bit before I go into how they can be solved. Disputes can arise between the parties or between the parties and third parties. Now, IP disputes, they have acquired a global character, so they transcend national boundaries. But laws are about boundaries. But in this area, you must learn to, your country must learn to adopt the conventions appropriate to this kind of business. So, like I said earlier, cross-border disputes will raise issues of choice of law, jurisdiction, and so on. And that World Intellectual Property Organization has a center for resolving such disputes. And disputes can be, like I said earlier, contractual or tortious. And they can arise. See, if you enter into a contract with an investor who is from a country where we have a BIT, for instance, we have Nigerian Dutch BIT, there's provision for dispute settlement under the ICSID Convention. The NIPC Act in Section 36 provides for resolution of disputes. So for an investor, he has to decide whether to proceed either a contract or a treaty or a statute. Now, what is ADR? We are not, let's move on now to ADR. We are not in agreement as to what ADR means, but it depends on how you define it. If you say that it's alternative to litigation, then it means it includes arbitration. But if you say it's a dispute resolution mechanism that is non-binding, it means that there's no arbitration. But it is interesting that the holy books also support the ADR. Are given verses in the Quran and in the Bible here, and many of us remember Matthew 5:19. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. So the Bible endorses ADR. So we are saying now that the ADR mechanism has very broad areas. Some define it as just three: negotiation, consensual, adjudicatory. Some say no, you have litigation at one end and negotiation at the other. But some say no. Includes all of that processes like unilateral action, private judging, and that is why it's tough to define it. It's made up of several devices for resolving disputes, so it's tough to find an appropriate definition. So let me quickly compare arbitration with litigation. You see, if you go to court to file a matter, the matter will be given to a judge. That is not your choice. But if you resort to arbitration, if you look at Section 6 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, it provides that the parties should determine the number of arbitrators. If the fatal is deemed to be 3. If you look at Section 7 of the Act, it says that the parties must take the procedure for their appointment. Now, you don't have this choice in litigation. So in arbitration, you can choose your arbitrators. You can decide the party. We call the principle of party autonomy. It gives you right to determine so many things in arbitration. Principle of separability. When you have a contract that has a clause on arbitration, that clause on arbitration is independent of the main contract. And therefore, even where the main contract is void, that contract survives. Competence, the tribunal, Section 12, sub 1 of the Act, it provides the tribunal is competent to rule on its own jurisdiction. When you are dealing with technical matters that are really private trade secrets, it is better to resort to arbitration than litigation. Now, I did continue here. When the dispute is international, like I said, cross-border disputes are international. It's preferable to go for arbitration than litigation. Even to maintain relationship. In litigation, if you sue, you have the main suit, you file a motion to stay acting on the matter until the matter is disposed of. But in arbitration, you can be arbitrating and work is going on. In our regime, you cannot appeal against an award. And if you look at Section 34 of the Act, it says that the court cannot intervene except as provided in the Act. Now, I'll just deal with this last slide and I'll round up. See, when it comes to litigation, Section 6 of the Constitution provides for litigation. So many people assume that, yes, it's only through the court that you can resolve a dispute. But in the case of arbitration, you must expressly provide for it in your contract. For litigation, you don't need to provide for it because it's in the Constitution. So you must expressly provide for it. So you mind how you draft the clause to avoid what we call a pathological clause. A pathological clause is a clause that is sick, that requires some remedial action to be effective. Now, in drafting the clause, you can decide whether to have a single clause on arbitration or a multi-tiered clause that deals with negotiation in the first instance. From negotiation, you go to mediation or conciliation. From mediation or conciliation, you go to arbitration. But if you adopt that multi-tiered approach, you must put a time frame that if you negotiate for like 1 month or you mediate for 1 month, there's no resolution before you go to the next phase. Now, one common type of agreement in this case is what we call cripple wrap agreement. You go online, you go to a platform, you see all kinds of contracts, you just down, you click, I agree. That's a contract. So that is what you use for software licensing. So I am saying here in adopting the IRO, for a foreign investor, many people argue that Nigeria should be a seat of arbitration. That was the main argument in the Pay and ID arbitration. But for your country to be a seat of arbitration, your laws must be modern. In Nigeria, we have the Arbitration Association Act of 1988. It's not modern. Now, a draft bill has been in National Assembly since 2007 is still there. Now, our court systems are not seen to be efficient. I give the case of IPCO and NNPC, where an award was given in Nigeria in 2004. 10 years after, that award could not be enforced. But luckily for us, we are a party to major instruments like the 1968 New York Convention and the 1966 Washington Convention. But I'm saying here, when the dispute is purely commercial and IP related, arbitrate, don't litigate. And I just conclude by just summarizing what are startups. And I said technology is essentially about data. Unfortunately, next slide please. Unfortunately, we do not have a data protection law in Nigeria. There is a draft that has been in National Assembly for many years now, but it's still not passed into law. Although we have the NISA Act that has a data protection regulation, we do not have a proper data protection law in Nigeria. So for ADRs to be efficient, we need the cooperation of the parties, judicial officers, commercial men, and for an investor, like I said, an investor who has a dispute can go through the contract and see how the dispute resolution clause was drafted. The problem is, if you draft a contract without a clause on dispute resolution and a dispute arises, there's what we call a submission agreement. The parties can agree to refer, but when the dispute occurs, it's tough for the parties to agree to refer it to arbitration. So it's safer at the point of drafting, you have a proper dispute resolution clause in the agreement. Like I said, NIPC Act provides for it, a treaty provides for it. So for investors, they shouldn't worry. They should ensure that in their contract, they have a proper clause on arbitration. That's the only way they can evoke this this process. So with the provisions in KAMA, in Sweden Act, NIPC Act, NDE Act, there is a startup bill that is being discussed. I do not think we need that bill because I think all these existing acts, especially the Sweden Act, if there are issues, that act have been amended. I do not think that we need a new startup bill. I think that the existing laws can accommodate whatever concern we have. And the challenge in this country, we have so many bills creating several institutions that are not properly funded. So I don't support creation of bodies that we cannot fund. I am sorry that I had to run, but thank you very much.
Wow. Prof, thank you very much. This is exactly why we needed you on board at all costs.
Hello.
Thank you so much for the
Oh, I can continue.
Which you have shared. Prof, you have just stamped credence.
Hello.
Experience as a teacher of all
The
things.
problem with my presentation is that it touches several areas of law that I can develop on their own as independent papers. Akiremi.
Wow, thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. This is exactly why we needed you on board at all costs. Thank you for the wealth of experiences you have shared. You have just found credence to the saying, experience is a teacher of all things. Prof, you would have another opportunity to shed more light to some of those areas that you had to move through quickly by the time we are taking questions from our audience.
Okay.
We really appreciate, Prof.
Okay.
For our audience, be rest assured also that you get to have the slide, but before we do that, we please with our distinguished experts who we are sharing with who oblige us the opportunity to share their slides with our audience, so you can gain totally from the whole experience that has been shared so far. That lecture was definitely insightful and touched on a lot of very important areas of concern. Prof, we have feedback already from our social media pages, which we are encouraging more persons to give feedback and ask their questions already. And the feedbacks are already really mind-blowing, appreciating the extent of knowledge that has been shared so far. Right about now, we'll move to the next item on our agenda, and we'll be having the second speaker address us in a bit. Our second speaker, Mr. Deoye Ojuroye, is an ICANN and ACCA qualified finance professional and holds a BSc Honours degree in computer science from the University of Lagos. He has a combined 15 years financial experience both in the United Kingdom and Nigeria, with expertise in areas of retail, commercial and investment banking, insurance, private equity, assets and sales finance and equities brokerage. Mr. Deoye is the Chief Financial Officer of Providence Bank. He joined the bank from PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, having worked for 8 years in each of the London and Lagos offices of the firm. At PwC, he had the responsibility of managing the audit engagement of multinational banking and insurance clients, covering all aspects of the client's financial reporting process, including assessment of the effectiveness of internal controls over financial reporting. He has due diligence and finance function effectiveness both in Nigeria and the UK. Mr. Deoye has interest in tennis, music, reading, and computer programming. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Deoye will be speaking within the next 15 minutes to the topic, financing startup business in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You introduced me better than I can introduce myself. Thank you. And I want to say thank you to Prof. He has nicely introduced the next phase, which is what I'm going to talk about, the financing options available to startups. So I'll share my slide as I talk you through it in the next 15 minutes. Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. So we're talking about financing startup business in Nigeria. I'm Deoye. I'm the CFO and head of strategy at Providence Bank. The content of my conversation with us today will cover these 5 areas. We'll look at what a startup. Prof has already defined what a startup is. So what I'll just do is show more about the characteristics of startups. And then the challenges the startups face. And then we bring you home to Nigeria, startups in Nigeria, and then the financing options available. Now, just like Prof defined earlier on, a startup is a new company trying to prove that a concept would work. And therefore, it would mean that it needs to be innovative. This concept or this solution doesn't exist already. So, for instance, the examples that he gave about the companies that are going to the edge of space, trying to show that it's possible. And that's one thing about all startups. Concept, we want to prove that it works, we want to validate it, and then we believe that it is scalable. So this is one thing that separates a startup from The regular entrepreneurship where you start a business, maybe you do something similar to what already exists in your neighborhood. But for startup, it's a concept, you're trying to validate it, and you're hoping that it is scalable to solve the problem into the future. So our conversation is going to center around the options available to startups. There are several options that I've listed here, which I'm going to discuss later. From bank loans, government loans, venture capital, angel investors, crowdfunding, business incubators, and government grants. But before we go into these options, I think let's spend a bit more time to understand the challenges with startups so that we put it in context when we talk about the financing options. So some characteristics, as we said, it's mostly financed by the founders or by love money. Love money is, friends and family helping you to try and start up your ideas. It's usually it's inherently risky, and the failure rate is high. So if we all look back before SpaceX could get to the edge of space, there were days that they lost a lot of money trying to prove that it's possible with the various trials that they had in the past. So it requires that there's a lot of funding, and that might not be available to the people who are trying to try out the concept in the first place. So very risky propositions. And at the early stages where a startup is asking an investor to put in money, even when someone is interested, if they can see the concept, there's always another challenge of how do we value it? Because if I'm going to put money in your business, you need to give me equity holding, let's say the equity investment. So what's the value, what's the percentage holding that you're going to give me? So that creates that's one of the characteristics. It can be difficult to value, to even allow for the funding. The other challenge is, as they said, is the concept. It doesn't exist. You have to validate the concept to potential lenders or investors. So a startup is a venture always, in search of financial backing, as I said, to take off. And one of the other things around corporate governance is that you will usually have a less formalized corporate governance structure. Just by nature, it might be one single person or two people. So those are the characteristics of startups. Now, some of the startups in the past, I know this is really not a joke. Microsoft, Facebook, Airbnb, Amazon, SpaceX have been startups at some point. But these are very big companies now. But in Nigeria, you have the likes of Cars45, AutoCheck, Flutterwave, Crowdivest, Konga, Global Accelerates. For instance, Flutterwave is now valued over $1 billion off the back of their latest fundraise. So these companies are, moving from startup to the likes of Microsoft, Facebook, and Airbnb, very successful businesses. Now, what are the challenges generally, before we talk about startup challenges in Nigeria, what are the general challenges you would expect? By the nature of startups itself and the characteristics that we define, there will be limited resources. There will be some leadership issue. You have one person or two, but usually leadership in a company would need to have a lot more people involved, on the board and in management, which you might not have at that time. There's planning, financial planning. These are skills, marketing. These are skills that are resident in specialists. But, the founder may have the vision and not have the skills. So planning is a big problem as well. So attracting buyers, that becomes a bit tougher. There's also competition. If you're new, and the existing competition in the industry, can see that you're going to maybe make them irrelevant. They're already a business that is generating cash flow, making money, so they have the financial muscle to try and make sure that they don't make the progress that you're planning to make. And they can just directly come into the business that you're planning to do. Human personnel as well, just because you can't have all the people at that time. So these are the general challenges, but let's see how it relates to startups in Nigeria. Just by the way, before I go to that slide, there are about 750. Nigeria has the highest volume of startups in Africa, as you would expect. A lot of Nigerians, they focus on this, what technology can do. There's a lot of problems with our infrastructure, payment system, that it just forces us to be innovative and find solutions. So, and we're in terms of population, we're a lot more, we're bigger, so you'd expect this coming out of Africa. So the challenges of startups in Nigeria, not too different from the one that we discussed, except that there are now additional ones that you would expect specific to Nigeria. It will be second item, which has to do with how volatile are government policies. And then maybe the fourth one around infrastructure. But securing funding and financing, we've discussed, it's a concept. You want to scale up. Early stages, inherently risky. Who's going to put money on the table for these investors? So it's tough. Government policies in Nigeria and the environment. I'll give you an example. Just recently, we know that there's some new regulations around BDCs and whether, I'm sure a lot of BDCs are thinking, do I have business now? But imagine someone had been working on a solution for BDCs, a tech solution for BDCs for the past 1 year, and hoping to go live, and then they can just wake up a day after and find out that all the effort in the last 1 year had been wasted. So that's how volatile it is in our environment, and it's a big challenge for startups. Competition, big challenge in Nigeria, especially we don't have anti-competition law, or at least from my perspective, sorry to legal practitioners, I'm not sure how effective it is if we have it. But certainly with competition, you can see, for instance, recently, a lot of banks are thinking to go into the fintech space, in the payment space, because some of these fintechs have shown you can do it successfully. They have a lot more money, they have a lot more infrastructure, so it could actually affect those startups. That's what competition does. Infrastructure is a big problem. So we need a lot of we need light. We need the roads to be good. We need more internet penetration to allow us to deliver on all of the things that we want to deliver from startup perspective, especially when it's tech related. There's poor business planning, not necessarily poor on the part of the founder, but also just because of the business environment and how you can plan too far into the future. It's always a short planning of horizon within it. And then there's human resources. People are the greatest asset. You need people to move a vision forward. At the early stages, it's tough for a startup. So these are some challenges for startups in Nigeria. So the next slide.
You have 5 more minutes, sir.
Thank you. So the next, this shows Nigerians have been able to raise close to $64 million. So we're doing well with raising equity for our startups. Now, so in terms of the financing options, the 7 options that I showed earlier, I kind of just categorize them into debt financing and equity funding. So the first one, debt financing, which is bank loan. So for a startup, one option is to prepare a very nice projection and then go project the cash flow forward and go to a bank. One difficulty with that is interest rates are high in Nigeria. Secondly, most banks will require that you demonstrate the cash flow, because banks have to make sure they don't lose the money, because the money belongs to depositors. So it's tougher, especially because it's a concept and you don't have cash flows at that time. For some startup, you may already have been able to show that there's some cash flow, and that getting this loan will be able to improve and increase the cash flow so that you can pay the debt. So how persuasive the plan is can help get the bank loan. There's government interventions in Nigeria. There's government loans. Some of the government interventions I'll show on the next slide. But the loans are usually the lower in interest rate and the collateral requirements are less. So that solves some of the problem with bank loans. And usually it's long term, so it allows the business to grow. Now the next 4, equity funding. Now the first one is venture capital. Now, venture capital, people who, I call it equity funding, 1 to 4, because this is more patient. So they give you money into the business, and then you give them some part of your business, whether 10% or 15% or 20%. And they are then more patient to allow the business. So you don't have this immediate need to have to pay interest as you have with loans. But the difference with loans is that you're able to keep maybe 100% of your business. Now, with venture capital, they're able to give you money, but they're also able to support the startup with some strategic assistance. So in addition to taking equity, they might be involved in management. The angel investors are the ones that are wealthy individuals that are happy to take some risks. Maybe they see the vision and they're able to take equity. So they're angel investors. The difference is that angel investors don't give you as much as venture capital will give you, because venture capital are friends and not individuals. Now, one other option available is crowdfunding. So this is where you can then have a lot of people. It's retail based, and it allows a lot of people contribute small amounts into having small stake in your business. Business incubators, which is the penultimate one that I want to discuss now, are those ones where from the word incubators allow you to grow, because as a startup you need to grow. They provide you with all the resources that you need. You might share their space. They might bring you together with people who are in your value chain. So if people are in like a lab, there is an incubator. What that happens is that a lot of the administrative, logistics, and some resources that you need are all taken care of. But in exchange for that, they may take equity in your business in exchange for that, for providing those resources. And as with the Nigerian tech industry, they are all aware, most of them had been part of the incubators in the US. One advantage of the incubators is that in addition, they bring in the community of investors. So you can showcase to a large community, and your chances of getting investment is much higher. So that's how some of the Nigerian tech business has been able to raise money as startups. Now, the final one, government agencies can give grants. It can be tough getting grants, but it's possible to get grants from government. Now, this just shows some of the incubators we have around in Nigeria, Spark, CC Hub. Thank you, everyone. Financing options available to startups. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dioye. Thank you for breaking down every issue pertaining to financing startup business in Nigeria. You definitely have given a lot of insight to our audience today. We cannot appreciate you enough for that very insightful lecture. To our audience, please note, you would have the very rare opportunity of asking questions immediately after all the speakers have given their speeches. So kindly send in those questions now to the comment box, both on the Zoom platform, YouTube platform, and the Facebook platform. Keep the questions coming. You may not just have another opportunity such as this to have an advice and responses to your questions from a well-experienced and top banking official in the Nigerian state who definitely understands the sector better than you can have actually imagined. Right about now, we'll move to the third speaker for today. Our third speaker will be addressing this very distinguished gathering is Mrs. Omolabake Bode Matthew. She's an entrepreneur who was first qualified to practice law. She decided to play in the food and beverage industry by setting up and running a company, Fonte de Vie, in 2013, where she serves as CEO. Fonte de Vie is an LD beverage option domiciled in Lagos, Nigeria. She runs this business full-time since her departure from legal practice in 2013. She is the Tony Elumelu Foundation 2017 Fellow, Faith Foundation Scale-Up Lab alumni, African Women Entrepreneurship Cooperative 2021-2020 Court, Academy for Women Entrepreneurs 2020, and is still on a personal development journey. She crafted and created about 60 variants of healthy cold preserved beverages. She has successfully registered 12 of her products with the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. Her product, the juice, are sold in various supermarkets in Lagos and expanding across Nigeria. Her company currently employs over 35 people, 90% of whom are women trained in beverage manufacturing, business development, and sales. Her business solves problems around malnutrition, healthy eating, women empowerment, amongst others. Mrs. Omolabake is a wife, a mother, a foodie with a blog onjeladun.com and an avid gardener. She loves nature, art, and could take vacation 10 times a year as long as she doesn't have to pack and unpack her bags. Ladies and gentlemen, speaking is Mrs. Omolabake Bode Matthew. Within the next 10 minutes on the topic, challenges encountered as a startup business owner in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to the team at Rock & Co. for this invitation. I'm honored to be amongst people who have such wide knowledge. I mean, I hear myself called an expert several times. I've been wondering, are they talking about the same person? But thank you so much. I would, my name is Omolabake Bode Matthew. I own and run Fontaine de Vie. Fontaine de Vie, like has been mentioned in the introduction, is a healthy beverage options company. It's domiciled in Lagos, and our flagship products, FDV Juice, are a range of 100% natural fresh fruit and vegetable juices. And pretty much what we try to create and solve for our client base and our customers is many people do not have the time to make their own juices by themselves. And so we create the ease by making it for them. We make accessibility. If you cannot make your juice at home, we have it delivered to you, or we stock the neighborhood store closest to you where you can buy from. And then we also demystify the idea around juicing that it's supposed to taste vile. And it's only for something that you need to lose weight. We create our own products to as refreshment juices. So if you don't want to take fizzy drinks, then you can have our drinks. So that's pretty much what it is. I don't even I don't operate in the tech space. I don't have the expertise of Prof and Mr. Deoye, but I'm going to speak from my heart as an entrepreneur based on my own experiences in dealing with, in navigating the business space in Nigeria. Like I said, we have targeted our client base through B2B and through B2C channels. And in doing our business, we've been able to employ a lot of tech solutions. One of the challenges we faced in trying to get our products to the doorsteps of our clients at the time was dispatching the product. So at some point we collaborated with dispatch services. We've collaborated with, we've actually even owned our own dispatch service. And we have had issues from, you have all the you have all the licensing, you have everything you need to get. But somewhere along the way, there's some intergovernment, what's it called, maybe not communication with themselves, and somebody doesn't get something, and then you get stopped by one agency today, another agency is asking for something, one permit here, another permit here. It gets quite frustrating, and then you have to pay multiple rates at different points to different services. And so one of the tech solutions that we're thankful that came on board and we've been able to partner with has been Gokada. Just by the click of an app on the phone, we can easily order a bike to pick up our products to have it delivered to clients. And we even employ sometimes this service to dispatch our products to some of the supermarkets where we don't have like a cluster of supermarkets where that will warrant us having one of our bosses travel all that way to go and supply products. So we use the service of the Gokada ride to go and dispatch that. Even for our accounting, we've employed tech solutions like the Wave app, which we use for our accounting, for our invoicing. It helps us keep track of every of our books. to a large extent. And so those are tech solutions we've been able to employ. That's what two, at least minimum of two. And then speaking of even Google, the entire Google package, Google Teams, the email service, we're planning our calendar, communicating with staff, planning, sending message on the go to my team. I don't have to be in country. I don't have to be in state to be able to communicate with my staff. I can communicate to them on the go because of tech solutions that have been provided to make it easy for me as an entrepreneur to do business. Imagine if I had to do that by analog. I won't be able to communicate with over 35 member of staff, some of which we're not in the same area. There's some of our member of staff who stay miles away. Some we probably even haven't seen physically, thanks to the COVID year when they came on board into the business. But we can talk electronically. We can communicate by video calls. We can communicate through Google Teams, through Zoom meeting, like we're having here, to be able to pass messages across and give them instructions on the go. So those are a few of the tech solutions we've been able to deploy. We were able to get our NAFDAC approval. That was because NAFDAC is renewable, which is one of the things that I believe that's one of the difficulties I think the government needs to look into. For instance, in the US, if you have FDA approval for your product, or you get your food approval for your good or service, you get one number for all of your products. And once you've been approved, you're always approved. All they'll just do is coming to do a review of your location and what your product is. But with NAFDAC, your NAFDAC number only lasts you 2 years, and you have to review. Last year during the COVID lockdown, when our numbers did expire, and we tried to get our numbers renewed, one of the problems we had was we couldn't get it done because we had gone through an incubation hub, which thankfully that was what's put together by the government to make things easy for entrepreneurs in my space, and incubators generally, entrepreneurs who can't afford their own spaces to set up. It's called the Technology Incubation Center. It's under the Ministry of, under the Ministry of Technology, and it was championed by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo. And so we had gone through, and everybody was in the lockdown mode. Unfortunately, by the time when we were out of lockdown and everything was good to go, we had a challenge with the penalties that had been placed on the fact that we were renewing late. Very stiff penalties, like a penalty of over 100,000 per product that will have just renewed at about 30,000. And it's a huge challenge. It's something that I wish as an individual, that is something that the government will actually look into. It's something that has given us a lot of headache and and all of that. There's also the issue of multiple taxation. I can't even start to get into so much of that. And I want to round this up quickly, that I don't take up all the time that the other speakers have to speak with. Fundraising, which is one of the issues that we're discussing here. As an entrepreneur, one of the ways I have been able to raise funds, I first of all started by bootstrapping, taking out what I had, starting with what you have, pretty much. That's what bootstrapping is, starting with what you have. I had 2,500 naira. I had an old juice extractor, which was given to me as a wedding gift. I started with that. The 2,500, I was able to buy fruits and buy bottles I was going to bottle with, because when I left
about 2 more minutes.
Okay, fine. I'll breeze through it quickly. I bootstrapped, I raised money from family and friends, and then I initially had something against loans, but over time, I think with the government, the CBN gave an injunction, I think at the time, an instruction to the banks at the time to make loans available easily to customers. And through my banking app, I was able to apply for a loan quickly through my bank. I've taken loan and I've been able to return it because of my kind of business. I've gotten grant from the Tinu Elumelu Foundation. I got the Nisrael grant last year, which was a federal government grant. I have gotten about 2-3 different kind of grants. I've also been in communities. So as an entrepreneur, if you want to find out information on how to raise money, how to raise grants, where it is you can get loans, the incubators, where the grants are, where the angel investors are, I would implore you, join communities, be in communities of people in your space, outside your space, and you'll be able to get a lot more information. I'm hoping that during the question and answer session, if there are any more questions or something I wasn't able to quickly get through, I will be able to answer that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, Ma, Mrs. Labake, for that very, very direct points. You have been able to throw up a number of issues that are likely to be faced by staff.
I've yielded the floor. Host, I've yielded the floor for the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Omolabake. Thank you for giving so much insight on that particular topic. You raised a number of points that startup businesses should be aware of that they may encounter as
challenges when it's time for them to be able to continue with their own business. In all of this, you also pointed out solutions that you already adopted and which can be adopted by others. We really thank you for that particular session. Just before we bring the next speaker up, Prof. and Mr. Joey, I would like to just state one or two questions that are already up and are waiting your brilliant responses before we take the next session. Prof, sir, one question that is pending says, considering the fact that the NIDA regulation does not properly cater for data protection, does it not cause for concern to consumers of fintech platforms? Prof, you'll be having the opportunity to respond to this question and others just after the last speaker. Mr. Joey, we also have a question, one of many, and that is, our commercial banks are adjusting to the challenger banks that are granting funding with little or no collateral. Would have the opportunity of taking your responses to this question and other questions that are already pending just after the speech of our last speaker. Our last speaker for today's event is Ogunjobi Abiola Abisoye. He's a graduate of mathematics and computer science from the University of Port Harcourt, Choba, Rivers State, Nigeria. He is the CEO and lead developer at eSoft Limited, a software development firm based in Lagos, Nigeria. Abisoye isn't new to the entrepreneurship game, as he ran several successful businesses as an undergraduate at the University of Port Harcourt, amongst which were CNC Place and Deuces Apparel. As a graduate, during his National Youth Service year, he learned web and Android development at his place of primary assignment, Plus Life Limited, and used the skill set acquired to build his very first tech product, Open Employment Africa. This platform is aimed at connecting undergraduate and graduate interns to reputable organizations for employment. Open Employment Africa has, since its launch, helped recruit over 500 employees for over 70 companies. After working for a while as a web design instructor at New Horizons, Nigeria, Abisoye is now the CEO and lead developer at eSoft Limited. His firm has satisfied several clients' needs and have developed more products, including eSchool, a school management system, OpenLearn, and OpenTest. Abisoye loves reading, listening to music, and developing tech solutions to man's everyday need. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Abisoye Ogunjobi will be speaking within the next 10 minutes to the topic, Tech Business in Nigeria, Exploring Opportunities for Growth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kerevi. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I would first of all like to thank the partners at Rook & Co and everyone that has invited me here. It's such an honor to be here and to be speaking with such dignitaries. I was beyond shocked when I received an email to say that I would be speaking, and I saw the list of other speakers, and I must say that I am really honored. Thank you very much. Good morning, Prof. Good morning, Mr. Dewey, and good morning, Mrs. Omolabake. So I will just be speaking very briefly on exploring opportunities in the tech space. As my citation was read, I started entrepreneurship a little bit early while I was an undergraduate at the University of Port Harcourt. One of the ways that I started was that there was a competition at school at that time to bring up a business idea for $1,000. I was just implicit. I just wanted to just know what I could do. So I decided to come up with a project that sold or made chicken and chips readily available to students in school, and that could be delivered using a taxi cab. When that money was won, I decided to start up the business. I ran the business for 4 years before selling it off to a younger student when I graduated. Right after that, I got into NYSC and I started in Cross River State. Now I experienced a very particular problem. Because I studied mathematics and computer science, I had a little bit of knowledge in web design. But when I got to NYSC, there was no platform in Cross River State like the Jobberman and the rest that we could use to get internship opportunities. Now, I didn't want to go and become a school teacher because I knew what I wanted to do with my NYSC. I wanted to expand on my horizons. I wanted to learn better. I wanted to have a better understanding of tech development and eventually run a tech business, which I do today. So I decided to enroll from point to point, or rather to search from office to office for people who were looking for web developer interns. I got one finally, Plus Life Limited, which built a mesh network application that could chat without internet. And at that point, I learned web development and Android development. Because I experienced that problem, I realized that a solution needed to be built for the south part of Nigeria. So I came up with Open Employment Engine. And what we did was basically simple. I just went around to companies that needed NYSC interns. I went to NYSC camps and told them that I had a platform where they could get placements in places other than primary schools and government establishments. And it was very fantastic. It was very successful. In Cross River State, in the space of about 2 years, we recruited over 1,000 interns for small businesses in roles of admin, customer care, and people loved the product. But after NYSC and after staying in Cross River for a while, I returned back to Lagos, and I realized that building a startup business was entirely different. Building a startup was entirely different from building an SME, a small and micro business that you would normally do. And running into this problem, I realized that I needed to equip myself. And that brings me to my topic that says exploring opportunities. Now, when I decided that I wanted to become a startup founder, I needed to learn. I needed to unlearn everything that I'd done. I needed to unlearn the fact that I'd run a successful clothing business, I'd run a successful chicken and chips business, and I needed to move into tech. So what did I do? I got into Fake Foundation. I got into Enterprise Development Center. I took courses with them. I decided to start attending HR forums to be able to better understand how human resource professionals do their recruitment process, to better structure my company. I got into Founders Institute, a Silicon Valley based accelerator program that helped me structure and build my business. And when I looked at it all, and I said, okay, we will need funding for this. What skill do I have that can help me raise enough money to fund my baby project, Open Employment Africa? And I said, I run this, I can build websites, I can build mobile apps. So why not start a software development company on the side? So that's when the dream of iSoft Limited came up. So when we started iSoft Limited, we started from a small table and decks at a co-working space. I would go there, I'll reach out to people, I'll call them and tell them I can build websites for you. They give me the website, I build it, I deliver. From the single table, I expanded into 2 staff, and we took two tables and we build software solutions for people. We go for presentations, build it and deploy. And as we speak today, we've grown from a single business, or rather a single man software development business, into a 12-man business. So now we currently have 10 developers, both remote and full-time at the office. We've moved from a co-working space to our own personal office space, and we have built solutions for people across cosmetics and skincare, real estate, finance. We built a lot of fintech products for companies like Digital Space Capital, investment products for strong mass investment. And the growth has just been exponential. Now, this all brings me to the conclusion that when you decide that you want to build a company, when you decide that you want to own a business, it is one thing and one thing only. Apart from the fact that you need to have passion for the business, you need to also understand that this business needs to run. Thank you very much, Mr. Dioyo, for explaining to us the amount of funding opportunities that are available. But would also need to understand that as the time that friends and family are putting money into your business, before you are reaching out to investors, you need to be able to run that business and make it profitable. Now, to be able to do this, you need to be able to explore other parts of your business, other parts of your skills that you can harness, so that you can make money from to fund your your primary goal. Which is what I'm doing with ISOF Limited. Although I'm building softwares and I'm making money from it, but the end result is to put that money back into Open Employment Africa and ensure that Open Employment Africa becomes the one-stop shop for people who are trying to get employed and improve the employability. Because the problem that we had when we were building Open Employment was the fact that we didn't have a lot of employable graduates, and we transformed from just a recruitment platform to a career development platform. And to do this, we needed a lot of money. And because of that, we funded with a lot of money that we make from ISOFT, put it into Open Employment, make it practical, make it work, and we've been really into that state. So I just want to like to encourage everyone that it's not how you begin, it's definitely how you push and you go ahead on it, and in the end it will definitely make sense. Thank you very much. Mr. Kerem, I've given the floor.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Bisoye Punjobi. Thank you very much for that precise, direct experience that you shared. Very personal experience, but definitely helpful to our very young audience who also wants to achieve the kind of feats you've achieved, ranging from one business to the other, cutting across different sectors and doing excellently well in all. Just to mention that audience cuts across different age brackets, different professional brackets, and just goes all round. We are not restricted based on the registration. It was very clear that the audience is a very wide audience, and therefore it meets all needs that may be required on today's platform. Just about time for us to move immediately to the questions section. We have a number of questions already awaiting responses, and I'll plead with our distinguished speakers and experts to help us by responding to the questions directly, so we are able to take as many as we can. We'll begin with the first question, which is directed to Prof. Prof, sir. Prof, can you hear me, sir? All right, so we move to the question. One question for Mr. One question for Mr. Dioye. Mr. Dioye, sir, can you hear me, please?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I think the question was, how are the commercial banks responding to the challenger banks who are giving out loans without the need for much collateral requirements? I think that was the question. Okay, thank you. I think, as with every new player into the industry, you try to solve a problem, and then you also give some wake-up call to the competition. So I think what some commercial banks have done is that they now have started to give out some loans up to a particular limit without the need for collateral. And they also deploy the same digital platform like the challenger banks, like you said. So you're able to get some amount of loans without really having to go to the bank or having to go through the rigorous requirement for a collateral. So it's also happening in the commercial banks now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that direct response. I'm sure the person who has asked that question has gotten clarity from your response. Before I come back to you, Mr. Deoye, we'll take questions for Mrs. Omolabake. Someone is asking, Mrs. Omolabake, can you hear me, ma?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Someone is asking, how can I join these platforms for grants? I suggested those are the platforms, some of the platforms you mentioned while you were speaking.
Okay, like I mentioned, you need to put nobody can dwell in isolation as an entrepreneur to a large extent. You need to collaborate with people with your space, put your ear to the ground. I don't know what space you're in. Some of them are actually more targeted towards industries. So put your ear to the ground. For instance, when I did the accelerator program with Faith Foundation, it was sponsored by the Sun Business Network. And through the Sun Business Network, we were introduced to a lot of funding opportunities, grant opportunities, groups, including platforms. And, when you have people who are grant seekers and what we call funding seekers, there's always information. The information is there. So they keep bringing up information. When I also did the Tony Elumelu Foundation program, through the program, through our hub, we have different people who come up who give you different news about what new grant is coming, what is coming on ground, and you'll be able to say, okay, is this for my space? This is not for my space. Is this for my network? This is not for my network. And a lot of them are usually towards the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, there usually is a lot of grant applications. In fact, at a point, you probably will even get tired and exhausted from applying for grants. If you know people who have been to Lagos Business School, partner with them, talk to them. They'll probably have information. So you can't dwell in isolation. Collaborate with people in your space, in your network. They'll be able to give you a lot of information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We are coming back again to you to respond to another question. But before then, Mr. Adeoye, please, we want you to respond to the question. To retain equity in the long run, what is the best financing option? To retain equity in the long run, what is the best financing option?
Did you say to retain equity in the long run, what is the debt financing option? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
To retain equity. Okay, well, I'm trying to get more clarity on I'm trying to guess what the question was. You see, equity investment already means you have shareholders in your business. They are happy with it and they are there to collect dividend when you make profit. So if you say, what options are there for debt financing to retain equity? I'm trying to see whether they mean, do I need to get debt option to make sure that I continue to be profitable so that the shareholders don't say they want to take their money, if you understand what I mean. And if that's the case, like I said, debt financing, you have option of going to the bank and maybe through government loans. But when you go to the bank is just looking for, how do we know you can generate enough cash flow to repay? As long as you can demonstrate that, articulate that in your projections and show evidence of your historical performance and what you want to do with this loan that you want so that the cash flow can even improve better and allow you to pay, then the bank is likely to grant you the loan. The bank only worries about not getting the money back. But if you can articulate how you're sure that you can repay back, the bank can take a chance. And I'm hoping that if you raise debt, then the equity investors stay longer because they can get dividend, they can continue to make profit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Prof, we would like you to respond to the question, should startups have ADR provisions in all their contracts? And must the jurisdiction always be outside Nigeria considering the cost? Prof, sir, can you hear me, Prof? All right, we'll come back to Prof, you may be muted. You may need to unmute.
Can you check if I'm muted?
We can hear you now, Prof.
Okay. All right. So I always advise that as between, if you are, say, you are in a partnership or you are working with others, you need to have a contract. And even if you are friends, once it moves into a commercial venture, have it documented, have a contract. You can have a small clause on dispute resolution. Like I said, the courts are not very handy for pure commercial disputes. So you have a small clause on dispute resolution. And because of the nature of your business, you provide for a sole arbitrator, not a panel of three. Now, if you draft that contract and state that dispute should be settled by arbitration without indicating the number, Section 6 of the Act assumes that it's three. So Section 6 says you should determine the number of arbitrators. If you fail to, it's deemed to be three. So I advise young entrepreneurs, when you're drafting their simple contracts, they should provide for a sole arbitrator. Now, on the issue of the seat of arbitration, I always push for a Nigerian seat. Again, it's a matter of negotiation. How strong are you in negotiating contracts? I always push for a Nigerian seat. But like I said earlier, we are not very attractive as a seat for arbitration. We are not. We are not very attractive. Our law is old. Our courts are inefficient. Judges can set aside an award for any reason at all. So we need to be seen to be arbitration friendly. So, but it's a matter of negotiation as to the governing law, the choice of law, and the seat of arbitration. There was another question on data protection that I couldn't answer because my audio was bad. I find that question very, very interesting. Now, sorry, can I go ahead?
Go ahead, Prof.
Okay. Can you just imagine how many organs of government collect your data? I'll mention a few of them. INEC collects your data. National Population Commission collects your data. The police force, the central bank, the immigration, the road safety, the National Identity Management Commission, Nigeria Communications Commission, then NISDA. They all collect your information. Now, they collect them for specific purposes. There's a need to regulate them. There's a need to have an independent regulator. What has happened is these various bodies are unable to agree on who is the regulator. But in the data protection bill that is before the National Assembly, you won't believe that these same bodies that collect data wanted to be regulators. I was in a validation workshop in November last year, and I said, no, you cannot be a data processor, a data processor, and also a data regulator. So we need to have an independent regulator. So I'm hoping that that law will be passed soon. But in the interim, the regulation that has been drafted by NISDA in 2019 fills the vacuum to some extent. It's not very comprehensive, but that regulation serves a purpose for now until we have a proper data protection legislation in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Prof, we'll be coming back to you with another question. But
I'm ready.
We have Mr. Abisoye. There's a question for you, Mr. Abisoye. The question is, how can I attract buyers, and are there specific accelerators you can recommend?
Okay, so attracting buyers to your business it's a wide spectrum. It depends on the kind of business that you're running. If you're into real estate, the mode of attracting customers will be different. If you're into tech, if you're into fintech, if you're into cosmetics, I mean, you have different target markets. You need to first of all understand the target market to understand the services of the target market. Then you'll be able to carefully draft a plan to attract those customers. You can do the attraction can be either offline, can be online. It's a wide spectrum. Now, the second question is, are there specific accelerators that I would like to recommend? There are a handful. Faith Foundation, for one, was my stepping stone into into entrepreneurship full time. After that was Founders Institute from Silicon Valley. They have a Lagos cohort now. I think the latest cohort is under recruitment currently. Although Founders Institute is not free, but I can assure you that the 14 weeks course is the best you can get in terms of accelerator curriculum in Nigeria right now. There's also CC Hub. There is there's this other one, TechCrunch or something like that. So they're building on one of them. All you can do is to go online. You can also join in to different ecosystems. There's Startup School, yes. There's Startup School by YC, Y Combinator, that has the Lagos cohort too. They're building on one of them that you can join. Virtually, once you join one, there are several opportunities that will be shared on that platform. Like Mrs. Omolapake had said, there are several opportunities that will be shared on that platform that you even get overwhelmed with. But for now, those are my top three.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bise, for that response. Before again we come back to you, Mr. Dere, I have a number of questions for you, but one that strikes me is many Nigerian startups rely on angel investors from Silicon Valley. Considering regulatory requirements and stringent loan conditions, how do you think Nigerian banks can help to de-risk investments in startups and position them to get more local funding?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. I think one of the fundamental issues, angel investors or VC, because there's another question on VC, venture capital, so I'll take it together. Angel investors or venture capital, whether as individual or a firm, they're putting money in what can be inherently risky, and they will be looking for high returns. You know how to say, the higher the risk, the higher the gain. But there's a fundamental issue in Nigeria that the money market already provides you very good returns. So when people invest in treasury bills or put money in banks for fixed deposits, they can get close to 16%. So when you can put your money in what looks like a safe investment, and you can get 16%, it's really hard for you to put that same money in a venture where you might lose all of it, or maybe you might start to make 16% in 3 years' time. So I think once we can fix the issue of high interest rate within the money market, if you look at banking outside of Nigeria, in the US, UK, if you put savings, if you have savings in the bank, you can get more than 0.01% or 0.05%. That means if you have money as a wealthy individual, you have to look for other ways to make money and get returns. Then you would consider to be an angel investor or set up a venture capital firm and put money into real economy rather than put it in the money market. So for all the questions around how can we de-risk, help startups, how can we have venture capital, getting more involved, it's down to how do we ensure we fix this fundamental issue that people are not getting access to easy return by just putting money in the banks. Once that is solved, I think you'll find that people have more appetite to venture more and take risks. One final question that I saw here, which I also like to respond to, has to do with convertible loans. Somebody asked, is there a regulation around convertible loans? So just for the general audience, convertible loan is a type of loan where the person says, you know what, I'll give you the loan now, just be paying me interest or, add up the interest later, and then we will convert it to equity in your business. So that means at the early stages, they're not too sure whether they want to be with you permanently. But when they see that there's a potential for you to make money, they can then say, okay, change it from debt, from loan to equity. And there's no regulation around it. That's a simple question, the simple answer. But please speak to your financial advisors and legal advisors. They will help you because there can be disputes on the date of conversion as to how much of your shares you're going to give to them and how much of your business you're going to give up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dere. I would once again like to say thank you to Flo, thank you to Mr. Dere, thank you to Mrs. Omolapake, and thank you to Mr. Bise
Truth be said,
we have so many more questions in our comments box, both on Zoom, on Facebook, and even on YouTube. But time would not permit us.
Sorry. Can I take a question? There's a question on seat of arbitration and Nigerian law. I'd like to explain that, please. Okay. Now, we are all familiar with the P&ID arbitration. The problem with that arbitration was the arbitration provided that the Nigerian law is the governing law of the contract. But when it came to arbitration, the court also said venue for arbitration, London. Now, like I said in my presentation, in arbitration, what we call the principle of separability. What the principle simply says that you will find in section 12, sub 2 of the Arbitration and Conciliation Act that when you have a contract that has a clause on arbitration, that clause on arbitration is independent of the contract. So when you have a contract that has a clause on arbitration, you are in effect entering into two contracts. The main contract dealing with the commercial obligation, then the clause on arbitration dealing with how disputes are to be resolved. So although P&ID contract says Nigerian law is a governing law, because the same clause provides venue for arbitration, again, that is strong terminology. What we have in most texts, in most laws, is place of arbitration. And place of arbitration simply means the seat of arbitration. And seat is not Joko that used to sit down. It has a legal meaning. It is the seat that links a particular transaction to a particular legal system. In other words, every arbitration must be tied to a particular legal system once the arbitration is international. And is the court in that legal system that resolves all the disputes about if you have to challenge the award, if you have to deal with issue of jurisdiction. That was why in the P&ID arbitration, the hearing was held in London, an award given in London. The arbitrators assumed that the seat is London. So when our lawyers went to Federal High Court, Nigeria, to set the award, I said they were wasting their time. Because to set aside an award, you have to go to the place, the seat, where the arbitration was controlled. So seat has a very legal meaning, different from ordinary meaning. But in some texts, what is used is seat of arbitration or place of arbitration. Now, we have venue for hearing, because the seat can be in Nigeria, hearing can be anywhere else, or the seat can be in London, hearing can be anywhere else. But because we wrongly drafted that clause, we said venue for arbitration. Venue for arbitration is alien to arbitration. What we have is place of arbitration and venue for hearing. But because it was badly drafted, what we have there is venue for arbitration, London. The tribunal assumes that the seat is London and not Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Just as I rightly said, there are no other questions which I know our speakers would be very glad to respond to. But time would not permit for us to go any further with responses to those questions on this platform. As we stated already, that this event will last from 10 to 12, and we know that you have other engagements you want to attend to, and we will want to disrupt all of those. You can feel free to engage our website as well as our contact info email address, that is info@rook&company, as well as any other of our media channels. Bring on these questions. We will be very much glad to respond to them. We intend to engage you continuously until when we resolve all questions that you have raised from today's session. Don't also forget to state that I would plead with our speakers to give us permission and grant us directives to share with you the slides they are available, so you can be rest assured that we got you covered. It's just right about time for us to move to the next item on the agenda, and I'll do that by first of all reminding you that on the 2nd of June 2021, Rook & Company, in line with the celebration of its 18th year anniversary, put forth a notice to all law faculties in Nigeria, reminding and calling on all law students to go ahead and put in for an essay competition with the topic, the role of law, the judiciary, and the legal profession in curbing security challenges in Nigeria. It has always been argued that academic excellence has not been well appreciated, but right about now, Rook and Company has just led the way and given direction on how this should go. With a 1,000 limit towards essay, prizes were to be won ranging from 250,000 amongst others. We are glad to announce that after a rigorous process of receiving thousands of entries and painstakingly going through them to assess, we were able to come up with the first 6 winners, to include number 1, we have Nsofo Uluebube, a 500 level student of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. We have Oluwole Julius, 200 level of Lasun, Rotimi Olabi, 500 level, Shino Victor Akinrelu, 500 level, and Adeife Omololu, as well as Abiola Ayola. More will be said about this just in due course. It's perfect time while bringing this event to a close to call on no other person but the founding partner of Rook and Company for the closing remarks.
Am I on?
We thank you so much for sharing time with us today. My dear brother, Deoye Ojuroye, thank you very much for being so insightful in the kind of presentation that you have made today. Same goes for Mrs. Omola Bake. My first interaction with you, and I dare say that it's been quite impressive. Of course, Bisoyi Ogunjobi, more like a son to me, congratulate our distinguished experts for sharing thoughts today with our audience. The insightful remarks that you have made, no doubt, will go very well with our audience. Because the goal of this particular thing is to achieve 2 things. We wanted a situation where in setting up their businesses, they know what are those things they should do and those areas where they should not go. A second thing that is also very instructive for us is when they face challenges, what are the kind of solutions that they should be looking at? And what our distinguished team of experts have done today? What they have done today is to clarify these different perspectives. We thank you so much. We thank our esteemed audience. One assurance that we're going to give to our audience is this. We at Rook and Co, we are willing and ready to continue to partner with you and engage with you in finding solutions to these issues as they may come up to you at different times. It's been a wonderful opportunity sharing perspectives with you, working together with you. One of the things that will continue to concern you from time to time is that, oh, Nigeria is faced with so much of challenges, and what do we do? I want to tell you that every nation at different times have their own challenges. What Nigeria is facing at the moment is a phase, and we will get out of it. And the importance of that, or the essence of that for you as a startup business, is you should not be down. You should be undaunted. You should remain resolute. You should continue to be focused on achieving your goals. We will get there. Nigeria will get out of the challenges. Your businesses will prosper. We thank our very esteemed audience. It's been a wonderful session that we have had with you this morning. For those of us at Rook and Co, we say a big thank you to our experts, and we say a very big thank you to our esteemed audience. God bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you very
much. I think the moderator can close up the event now. Thank you.
On that note, nothing more is to be said as everything has been addressed and nothing is left unsaid. Once again, I say thank you for joining us and staying with us all through for the span of today's event. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
I hope we are no longer.
Gentlemen, team, thank you so much. Well done.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Well done.